Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. Now if you've watched my streams the past few weeks, you know that I've had a huge problem with my PC crashing during the stream. Very frustrating, and that is because my PC is really old. I'm talking like I bought it 15 years ago old. I had to rebuild it, most of it like 7 or 8 years ago, but even by most standards it's still like Stone Age old, right? So I talked to my accountant when I was on vacation last week and asked if I could get parts to build a new one, and she said sure, right after you put the kids to bed. I've been waiting all week for the parts to come in, and the last one finally arrived today. The case came today, so I'm really excited. I'm going to spend a little bit of time tonight. It's Friday, late night, everybody's in bed. Probably most of the day tomorrow putting this thing together. This video is going to serve as some sort of like highlight reel. I'm not going to like Henry Cavill this and put like a giant GoPro on my head and you can follow where I'm looking. You know, the big things I'll cover. If I run into any issues, I'll talk about those too. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. So let's take a look at what I ended up buying. All right, so before I get started, I really kind of wanted to lay out my goals for the build before we get into the pieces. I don't really game on my PC, not nearly as much as I used to, maybe before I had kids. So my PC is really just going to be used mostly for streaming. So you notice that I could have probably splurged on more parts, more expensive parts rather, but I chose not to. That said, I wanted something that was going to last me for another like 7 or 8 years before I had to build it. This leaves me a little bit of room to upgrade if I need to, but really I just kind of want to set it and forget it. Okay, so first things, we got the processor here. We got a Ryzen 7. I know that they make a 9. Didn't really want to move up that far. I've always been an Intel guy. Every piece I've ever owned or built has been an Intel processor, chipset, etc. This is my first experience with AMD. I've read a lot about how their multi-threading is superior, and for things like streaming, you really want to be able to take advantage of that. So I decided to switch over for this time. Video card. So this is a GeForce 2070 Super. Now, as I'm recording this, NVIDIA is right about to announce their brand new cards. So these are surprisingly difficult to find. EVGA is a brand that I've used before. I like them a lot. So for the RAM, I got 32 gigs of this brand that I've never heard of before, G-Skill. It's got these LEDs on it. I am definitely not like a flashy LED guy. I'm very minimalist. I don't really want my build to have all kinds of lights flashing in and out here. I just really want it to just sit there. It's not a piece of art that I'm going to show off. It's more functional than that. Motherboard, going with this Republic of Gaming B450. Pretty standard, I think. This is probably what I'm most excited about. So this is, and I had never heard of this tech before I started looking into my building this. This is an M2, right? M2 is what it's called. SSD drive, and this thing plugs right into the Mobo, and it is just so small. Like I couldn't believe this. And then I have an SSD in my existing PC that I'm gonna format and install as well. Got some fans here from I forget, Noctua I think is the fan company, so those are highly recommended. These are 1300, so they can run any speed up to that, so I can have a little bit of control. Got an 850 watt power supply from Corsair, another brand that I'm very familiar with and I trust. And then we're gonna house all this in this NZXT. So I went with the H710. I really had a problem deciding between this and the 510. The 710 was much more expensive for a little bit more space. And my basement, which is where my office is, where my man cave or whatever you want to call it is, a little bit dusty, and I wanted more space in the case for more airflow. I think the case does come with a dust filter, so we should be good to go there. So I'm probably going to set up my space now and let's get started on it. One of my favorite things about this box is how the corner is missing. Do you think there was some guy at like EVGA, like product development, who was like, we can save approximately 10 cents on our cards if we cut the corner off the box? And then the executive was like, Johnson, that's brilliant, make it happen. So this crib sheet that I kind of stole from my son's nursery fits over this table perfectly. Okay, so here's the case. It's beautiful. It's like a minimalist stream here. So, you know, pretty much plain black front. This side is solid except for some venting here for exhaust. I really tried to find a case without a tempered glass window. Again, I'm not a flashy guy. I don't really care what it looks like inside. I just care that it runs well, that it functions well, and that there's good airflow. This is basically going to be sitting in like a cubby in my office, so I will never be able to see through here. But yeah, I'm really digging this case so far. What you doing, Ridley? What you doing? You gonna say hi? You gonna say hi? Okay. Oh. Okay, bud. Good boy. I took the top off of the case, and I took the front off, and both side panels. I almost stepped on my dog there. To kind of give you a clear view of the inside. So it comes with 4 fans, 1 exhaust, 3 intake on the front. I think I'm going to put the other 2 fans on the top here. There's a radiator bracket, but I'm not going to do an all-in-one cooler here. So I'm going to put those fans up there for some exhaust. That'll give me neutral pressure coming in and out of the box, which is fine. Another thing I want to call out is that it comes with this magnetic dust filter. Magnetic meaning it just pops right off, so it'll clean real easily. The problem is that the front panel here was not easy to get off, and to make matters worse, you have to release it from the inside of the case. So whenever I want to clean the filter rather, I'm going to have to disconnect the entire machine and take it out of the cubby from my desk and open it up and do that. Now I'm sure, you know, for people who have their machines actually sitting on their desk, this is not a big deal, but for me it kind of is. So in terms of cable management, you know, they have this huge cable management bar here, but they also, behind the motherboard here, they have a lot of like pre-existing grooves, and they gave me a ton of like zip ties and stuff too, so I can route as much cables through here. Probably won't be as detailed as maybe LaFleur was with it, but SSD mounts behind the motherboard, so I think I'll take advantage of that, use that space. So yeah, overall pretty happy. I like the top-mounted USB ports and the headphone jack there. I'll probably make use of that. USB-C, of course, as well. Yeah, so excited to start putting her together. I'm going to be completely honest. I only bought this static band because it was black and gold. So I just wanted to call out this little tool portfolio, I guess you want to call it. My dad bought me this, I think, before I went off to college. So I'm dating myself. I graduated college in 2005, so this is close to 20 years old, I think, this little kit. And I've used it on every computer I've ever owned since then. And it seems like a small thing, but it kind of does mean a lot because I really credit my dad with getting me into like computers and that in the first place. Pretty cool. I love this little grabber thing. Alright, so I kind of stole my wife's craft lamp here because it is super dark in here and I want to be able to see what I was doing. But we got the motherboard installed. The fit was almost perfect. I had to shift it just a little bit because the holes weren't, you know, an exact match. The other thing that threw me for the loop is that this hole in the middle here, there's supposed to be a screw there, but there's an actual just like a static peg that comes up from the case. So, you know, the instructions for the motherboard said 9 screws, but there are really only 8 needed. So I think next I'll probably do the RAM, and then maybe we'll look into the processor, fans, etc. Got a lot to do. Alright, we got the RAM installed. That was probably the easiest part of the whole process so far. The only thing here is there are recommended slots if you're just doing 2 sticks. So I installed them in slots A2 and B2. And I do have 2 open slots if I want to add more later. It said the motherboard only supports up to 16 gigs per stick. So I've got 32 in there now, upgradable to 64. I am almost certain that I will upgrade to 64 at some point in the lifetime of this machine. But for now, 32 gigs is, I think, at least double what I have now in my existing machine. I don't know, I can't remember if I have 8 or 16 in my old machine. Either way, it's a huge upgrade. So I just noticed that there is a second dust filter on the bottom of the case here, and it just slides out. It's not magnetic. However, again, it slides out toward the back of the machine, so not very helpful. I mean, I guess if I'm taking the machine down to give it a clean, I'm going to do everything, but for like, quick, in-place cleaning, this case not really that good for that. and mostly because of where I'm putting it. All right, so we've got the M2 installed here. I had a miniature freak out when I thought that that little silver screw here was not included, but I was looking in the hardware bag for the case and not the hardware bag for the motherboard. So we found it. We're all good. This motherboard actually has two M2 slots. There's the one where I put it in right there, and then there's a second one right here. I chose to use this one because the instructions said that this one shares bandwidth with the PCI Express cards. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing that. So I don't know that I will have a need for a second M2 in the future, but having another slot available is really nice. And I still can't believe how ridiculously small this is, and the fact that it's hooked in right to the motherboard is amazing. So if you had told me from 7-8 years ago about this tech, I would have been pretty much floored at that point. All right, so we've kind of hit our first snag here, and it's with the fans. So the three fans here in the front for intake are all, they come daisy chained, so you can connect them to the motherboard with just one connector. However, the rear exhaust fan, which is right here, is not connected to the daisy chain. So, and then I have, two fans that I want to put up top here that are coming down here. So, essentially I have 4 fans plus the CPU fan that need to connect to the motherboard. However, looking at the diagrams, I only have 3 slots to work with. So I think that I'm going to have to get some another cord to daisy chain the 3 exhaust fans together, or at least the 2 radiator fans on top here, in order to get everything connected to the motherboard. So I'll probably think about that. I would rather not just disinclude one of these from the build itself. I may have a cable that I need inside my other machine, so I will probably wait and do the fans close to last because of that. All right, so I got the video card installed. I went back and forth on this, and I still might change my mind. So I've got really 2 slots to choose from for the video card. There's one up here in the middle, and there's one down here. The middle slot covers up. There's like 6 SATA ports that are hidden down behind here that are difficult to get to without. Well, I mean, really, you can't get to them without removing the card. So a minor annoyance. I also don't like the way that it covers this part up of the motherboard. I think that's just a decoration, but still. The problem is that if I move it down to the second slot, because the card is so thick, it actually covers up the remaining these other 2 expansion slots down here, and those become pretty much unusable. So aesthetically, I think it would look better moved down here to the second slot, and I don't think I really have a need for these 2 slots. If I do in the future, I can always move the card back up here. But for now, it's in here. I might move it tomorrow. All right, so we got the processor installed. No problems there. Another thing I'm kind of running into is that the Wraith cooler that comes with the Ryzen comes with this like stock thermal paste applied. And I did some looking up online, and it seems like the stock paste is really hit or miss. Some people reported that it is so sticky that if you ever need to remove it, maybe to replace the Wraith with like an all-in-one, that it's way too sticky and can pull the CPU out. So I am tempted. I did buy this Arctic MX, which is a really good product. So I'm really tempted to just clean off the stock paste and go with the MX. What I don't want to happen is to just take my chances with the stock paste and then have to rip it out if temperatures get too high. So we'll see what I'm going to do about that. All right, guys, it is going on midnight here on Friday evening. I'm going to call it a night. I am really tired. We got a lot of good progress done today. Got the motherboard in, got the RAM in, got the video card in, got the M2 in, and we figured out a little bit of where the connectors are going to go as far as power. I looked at all the diagrams for like the front panel connectors and where everything is going to go, so I have a good idea for tomorrow when I'm going to hook everything up. So tomorrow, going to do the processor and the heatsink that comes with that. Going to put in the power supply, and then I have to figure out what I'm going to do with the fans. If I have to run up to Micro Center to pick up a daisy chain cable, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. We'll do all the connectors. Hopefully by afternoon, early evening sometime, I will be trying to post it up and see if it boots. So good night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Many hours later.
What's up, guys? It is Saturday morning, about 10:30, and I am driving to the store to pick up the fan splitter cables that I need. The 3-to-1 was out of stock, so I'm going to have to get an extra 2-to-1 and just chain them together like that. I also forgot that the air conditioning in my car is broken. Should be a pretty easy drive. There's not many people on the road anymore these days. Alright guys, so I'm back from the store. I installed the two Noctua fans to the top of the case. There's a removable bracket here that's normally used for like a radiator that I took off. Then I ran the cables behind. I'll figure out management later. One thing that was a little annoying is that, so the first fan header, the 4-pin fan header, is way up here. And then the other two are way down here. You can kind of see the two of them there. So you can't run the CPU fan is up here. There's a CPU optional one here, but it's slave to the CPU fan, so you can't really run them independently. Running this cable to the chassis fan 1 header, I don't really like this at all, but I don't really see another way around it. This is the least obtrusive way possible that I could think of. There's a heatsink here, so you can't really run the cable through the I/O shield cover, even though this top part is just decorative. This bottom part underneath is metallic. You don't want to touch that with a wire for sure. So, also got the processor installed. I think I said that already. I still haven't made a decision on the thermal paste yet, but I have to make that shortly. So I'm going to put that in next. Also, you can see I had to remove the video card to get to the fan headers down here, and then some of the like the HD audio and the front panel connectors had to go in there too. It was just too tight a space, so I took the GPU out. And you also see that I moved the GPU down to the bottom. Aesthetically, I like it a lot better down there. So if it covers that, if I really need to use those extra ports at some point, I will move it again, but I don't expect to. Okay, guys, it is Saturday at about 5:15. And I'm pretty much done at this point. So I do still need to take the SSD and one of the mechanical drives out of my old machine and put them in here. But as is, the machine is ready for a post and to configure the BIOS. And then we'll probably install Windows and then add in the other drives, because they're just storage drives for now. As far as the processor went, I went with the stock thermal paste. I read up a lot about it, and most of the stuff that I read said that unless you're really pushing for performance, you're going to be like seeing a difference of maybe like 1 to 2 degrees if you switch out the stock paste. So I wasn't, I'm not going to be overclocking. I'm not really too concerned with super performance again. In terms of cable management, I feel pretty happy with what I've done. I don't need it to look perfect, because again, this is going to be sitting inside a cubby and nobody's really going to be able to see inside. So as far as cabling, I was really just concerned with maximizing airflow. The only thing that I really don't like is this is the RGB cable for the prism here. It's just kind of loose. I'm going to have to tighten that up a little bit. And then the power supply cable for the motherboard, and then the USB 3.0 cable are just kind of hanging out here, but they're not really going to obstruct airflow from the intake fans. So I did manage to put all the fans on different headers. I think I said that before. So the 140 millimeter, I decided not to chain with the two 120s up top because they're going to be, even if they're running at the same speed, there's going to be a different amount of airflow. So I want to be able to have them separately. So here I'll pop off the back of the case here. We'll take a look at what the cabling looks like on the hidden part. Okay, so again, cabling, I'm not too concerned with making it look pretty because this entire back panel is closed off and it's a solid panel. Somebody's going to see it. It's a little messy down here by the power supply. Again, hidden, not really too concerned about it. As far as mounting the mechanical drive, there's a slot down here, which I haven't fixed on yet. So that's where that will go. And then there'll be a couple, or I'm sorry, not a couple, there'll be one SATA cable that I'll have to add to this menagerie here. As far as the SSD, I haven't decided where that's going to go. So there's two slots here behind the motherboard for the SSD, and then there's a bunch in the front. So I really have some good options as to where to go. I imagine I'm probably going to try and go here, just again to keep it hidden in a way. SSDs don't really generate that much heat, so I'm not too concerned about it, and that's why they put them right here behind the motherboard anyway. So I'm going to take a break, grab some dinner, put the kids to bed, and then I'll probably hook it up and we'll see if it works. All right, guys, it's the moment of truth here. I've kind of Frankensteined this together. So this is sitting side on my desk here, and I have one of my two monitors connected to it, this one on the right. The one on the left is still connected to my old machine, which we're going to leave running for now. And then I've attached my wireless keyboard and a spare mouse I had to it. And I also have a little speaker here connected to the front audio port and USB so that we can test that. I have double checked and triple checked that I didn't miss anything. So we're plugged in. So let's go ahead and turn on the power supply here. Oh, we've got power. All right, the motherboard is lit up. All right, let's go ahead and push the power switch. See what happens. Ready? All right, so we got the intake fans running. Exhaust fans are all running. Let's see what happens here.
A few moments later.
We have liftoff. I'm going to hit F1 here to enter setup. As Batman says,
First try.
all right, I'm going to configure this BIOS and then we're going to get Windows going. You guys, Windows installed on that M2 in like 30 seconds. All right, guys, what's up? It is Sunday. It is 10 to 3 in the afternoon. I finished backing up everything from the old machine in case something happens because the drives are all going as is in the new machine, so everything should already be there. But I am going to shut down this PC for the final time. It has served me very well for the last 15 years, but I'm really excited to get the new one here. So let's go ahead and shut down. And there we go. So long, Alienware. Okay, after a little bit too much exertion, because I am both out of shape and this behemoth is very heavy, got the old machine out of the cubby, and I just wanted to take a second and appreciate the design that Alienware used to employ. I don't really know if they still do stuff like this in their cases. My tastes have changed a little bit. This is still a pretty cool looking case. You guys want to see how little I cared about cable management back in the day? Just look at this like rat's nest that I've got going on in here. There's just cables everywhere. All right, guys, so I mounted the 4 terabyte storage mechanical drive that I have. One thing that I kind of ran into, the drive that I thought was my main drive in my old machine is not actually an SSD, it's another mechanical drive. And I really don't want to put more than one mechanical drive in the new machine, just for heat purposes. One is more than enough. So I think what I'm going to decide to do is rather than go out and buy an SSD, I'm just going to leave it as is. So I've got the NVMe, which is 500 gigs, and then the 4 terabyte drive here. So I'm pretty much at more than the amount of space I had in the old machine anyway. And then what I will plan to do eventually is I will look to replace this 4 terabyte drive with an SSD of equal or greater capacity in the future, whether it be an SSD, a 2.5 inch, or an NVMe. And we're going to close her back up and pop her in the cubby and we'll be good to go. All right, guys, that's about it. Got everything back together. got her in the cubby, got everything hooked up and neat. My desk needs a bit of a cleaning, so most of my figures and stuff are off the desk proper here. So thank you for sticking with me through this. I'm really excited to get some streaming going tonight. Today is Monday, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye.